So hello folks, I am so sorry that I have not been on top of these videos. I think I've got to a good place now. I've graded enough things that I can give you some useful feedback, but it's the end of the term, or it's getting to kind of that point in the term where everything's due at once. And so I apologize. I know that you're kind of feeling that pressure also. So some things to talk about now that you're at the end of module 3. You're kind of at the end of the research piece of this paper, and now you're going to be putting it together. So first thing, this is not an argument paper, so you're not proving that something is true or false. You're not proving that something should or shouldn't be done about an issue. Those kinds of things are persuasive arguments. Save it for English 102. The other thing that happens a lot with these kind of papers is something else, which is that some people try to write an advice paper. So they've gathered all this information. It usually happens with things like nutrition and medicine and maybe, exercise, those kinds of things that if you think about it, you read about those kinds of things either out on the internet or in magazines back when we read those things. It's a particular kind of way of writing where it's presenting information to give someone advice, and so that's how it's written, and there's a lot of you in that. That's not an academic kind of research paper, college paper either. So be aware that there's this genre that you have in your mind that is not really what you're doing. What you're doing with an academic paper is maybe presenting multiple points of view about an issue, maybe presenting some information, and then maybe using another source to give examples about that thing, kind of like the first paper was supposed to be, with the illustration sort of thing. So just kind of keep that in mind and try to, as you're framing this, think about that. And then another thing to think about is you need to use more than one source for each of your points. Now, I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of 5-paragraph essays that are just longer. Hopefully they're more than 5 paragraphs, but you've been taught to do kind of the 3 big points. But for each of the 3 big points, make sure that you're using more than one source so that it doesn't become like a serial book report. Like, here's this one thing that's happening, and here's my source, and I'm going to talk just from that source for a while, and then I'm going to do a new thing, and now I'm at a different source, and this source says this, and then this source says this. Try to put things together. Think about the fact that you really need at least 3 corroborating sources to establish information, whether or not it's true or false. So one time could be a fluke, twice maybe it's a coincidence, but if you can find 3 examples that all kind of say the same thing, then and they're 3 examples that are not someone writing something in their parents' basement, then you probably have something that is real. So think about that. And then, yeah. So the other thing is that you just need to conform to the academic community's expectations. We expect certain things about evidence. Some things count as evidence for us that maybe the evidence rules are looser out in the real world. That's why we have as many problems maybe as we do. So we have ways that we use logic, just general reasonableness. And there are a lot of things that we can't talk productively about because those topics don't lend themselves to that kind of discussion. The scientific method, you're trying to, you get some ideas, you do some experiments, you're trying to prove that the thing that you think, you're trying to prove that that's not true. And if you can't do that, then it's probably you found something that's real and and other people can do that same experiment and replicate the results that you got. And then that's how knowledge gets made in that kind of field. That you really can't talk about, you can't do that kind of testing with things that are really opinions or beliefs that people have. Maybe they saw something weird one night and now they believe in ghosts. There's no way to prove that, and so that's why you really can't talk about those in an academic setting. So just think about that and it's possible with things like, another thing that you can't really prove is the existence of God or whose God is the real God, because those are all matters of belief, and those, you can't treat them as facts, but you can in the academic community talk. Like, religious studies is an academic discipline, and people can, you can look through certain lenses with disciplines. People who want to we can't really talk about, different kinds of conspiracy theories and whether or not they're true or false. We can say that they're false because they are, but the reason that we can't really talk about them productively, whether or not the world is flat, if people believe that, but we can study that. So we can study the way that people come to these beliefs. We can use psychology or other things for that sort of thing. And so I guess that's the difference I'm trying to help you see. And hopefully, as garbled as that was, you got it. One of the other things that I saw in the notes assignment was some people were saying this quote proves that. And we don't use this quote in academic writing because you're quoting your source or you're using information from your source and giving it credit. Either way, you need to do that. And so just that's not the way that we do it. You can say, give the author's name and, some signal phrase that says it's coming from that source, Jones observes or argues or things like that. But you don't use this quote. So try to avoid that. I don't know where you got that. But at any rate, what we have now is I've got some slides that I want to show you. So let me switch over to that. They have to do with two things. One of them is MLA and APA, and one of them is just a lot of commonly confused things that I saw in these assignments that I've graded the last few days. So MLA versus APA. MLA, as you may be aware, because probably was in some of the lecture things that you've seen in the past couple of modules or lessons. It's a humanities discipline. The thing that we most care about is the author. Dates are not that important because you could write something about Beowulf today, but something that was written 20 or 40 or 80 years ago might be just as valid for the kind of discussion of ideas that you're doing. So the author matters, the page numbers matter. If you have page numbers, the URL matters because that's a way to kind of get back to sources. And we generally capitalize all the important words of a title. And for APA, of course, it's science. So the thing that matters is not who said it, but when the experiment happened. So the date. And that's why the date's always in parentheses after maybe the name of the lead author on the study or things like that. Usually that's kind of a DOI number rather than like with MLA, the EBSCOhost and things like that should show up in the entry because that database includes the journal that it came from. So there's that. And then we use sentence case for titles. That's the other thing. So here's an example of an APA references entry. It's called references instead of works cited. I've got 3 authors here, and they just use the initials for their first names, and then they use the date, and then they have the sentence case title. The journal is italicized, and so on and so forth. MLA, usually you would spell out the person's name here, but for whatever reason, this Dunbar person doesn't like their first name, so they're not using it. But I mean, it could be something like Dunbar John or Dunbar Rebecca or something like that. In this case, because there's more than 2 authors, we don't list them all. We just list the first author and then et al. Al means alia. It's the Latin for and others. We put the title in quotation marks. We put the title of the journal that it's contained in italics. And you need to put those italics in there if they're not there. And then you see EBSCOhost is here for this one. And so that's how we do those. And now let's switch over to commonly confused words. I'll say before I even get started that this is really more of your computer is trying to be helpful, and you have to proofread more carefully because it's being so helpful. Because both of these words are spelled right. And when you see them like this, of course, you know the difference. You see it wrong a lot for several of these things, and that's why these problems exist. But for your, the first one is possessive, like your book. The apostrophe RE means you are. There's a letter missing there. The same thing for there. There's 3 of these. One is a place, one is possessive, and then one is they are. So just look at those carefully. Something to say about there is don't start a sentence with it because it's weak writing. It's using the weak verb like is or am or are or something. And it introduces errors. Like you have there, and it feels like that's the subject of the sentence. There's kind of singular, maybe, I don't know. And so you use is, and then the real subject of the sentence is afterwards. So you might not ever realize that you have a problem, especially if there are other things before you get to that, subject of the sentence. So that's what I mean by introducing errors. It should be there are if you're going to do it at all, but don't do it. It'll be better writing if you don't. It's and it's, so it apostrophe s, that's it is. It's one of the contractions. Its is the possessive neuter form of, and neuter is just used for nouns that we generally refer to without gender, like a storm, or an animal. We use it for that a lot. So there are a couple of reasons why we mess this one up, and I think it's a misremembered rule. So we think that in order to get possessive for a noun, you'd put apostrophe s after it, like the cat's bowl. So you kind of apply that same rule because it apostrophe s is something that you see all the time. And so, and because you see it wrong all the time, it's that. But you wouldn't say he apostrophe s for, like he's cup. It's his. It's the way that you spell that word, and that's the way the pronouns work. Some of them are spelled differently based on what they're doing in the sentence, and this is an example of that. All right, affect and effect. So the difficulty with this is that as you're using them, usually they're pronounced about the same. But with the A, it's usually an action, like the situation affects me, or I'm affected by the situation, if you wanted to use passive voice, like I'm affected by zombies too, I guess, for that matter. And effect is usually a thing. It's a noun. So like one effect of the pandemic was, and then go on from there. So of course there's exceptions because it's English. You can have, but they're really specialized. You can only use like something, affect being kind of like maybe someone's face after they've committed a terrible crime. Sometimes you'll see that they'll talk about someone having a flat affect, and it just means like they're just kind of there. Effecting a change, that's definitely an idiom. Or to effect a change, it's used as a verb, but only in those kind of limited senses. All right, now, if you're behind, this is my last parting thing for you today. First of all, don't panic. I will work with you. But in the syllabus, November 30th is the cutoff date for submitting any late work at a 10% penalty. So I think I have the day wrong in there, and your teacher kind of set me straight on that. But November 30th is what I mean. That's the last day of November. That's when the cutoff date is. After November 30th, not only can I not go back and grade work from 2 modules ago, but anything that's currently kind of due needs to come in on time, because of just, I'm drowning in grading by then, and you're drowning in final exams probably. So turn in, your research paper as soon as you can. Please don't try to keep it a few more days to perfect it. Turn it in as it is. There'll be time for, if you email me especially and say, I don't think this is quite done yet, or I'm worried about something, I'll try to get it in and grade it as soon as I can to give you enough time to revise it if you choose to do that. Those of you who've talked to me about revisions, I will, you can still turn those in by the end of the term, and I will give you credit for that up until, December, whatever that for last, I think the last day of the thing for this is about the 9th, maybe. I don't have it in front of me right now. Actually, I do. Hold on. Yeah, so December the 8th actually is the Friday that the term ends. So I'll take stuff up until then. If it's revision, and if I've talked to you before about it. So, and if you do the revision assignment that's there. So anyway, unless there's some, compelling reason why I should process late work for you after November 30th, like you got abducted by aliens and you have some kind of evidence for that, then, I'll work with you for that. But in general, I can't really do a lot because I'm, so just kind of keep that in mind. And, if you've got a lot of stuff out there, if you'd like to talk to me about how to catch up, I'd be happy to talk to you. Don't just assume that nobody's noticing. I'm seeing some zeros in the grade book, and I'm worried about some of you. So let me know what I can do to help, and let me know that you've got this or that you don't, and then we'll work from there. Okay. So anyway, now I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll look forward to seeing your work as you continue doing your research, and I'll look forward to your research papers. Thanks.